Hi everyone, it's Shari Carroll for SimonsStamp.com, and I am playing with the Altenew Garden Silhouette stamps, and I'm doing some multicoloring stamping. I'll also be creating a background using the Rustic Linen stamp, and this is a full card size stamp with some great greetings. I'll be using my Simons Stamp white ink to ink up this background, and I'll be stamping this onto some Desert Storm cardstock. Once I have my image stamped, I'll pull this off the stamp and you can see that really nice texture for a subtle background. The Altenew stamp set has a variety of ways that I can use some flowers and vases. So I am going to do a couple cards with this, and the first one I'm going to do is by using the little vase in the center of the stamp set. First, I'll position the vase right onto a tag that I'll be stamping onto, and I'm using my magnet with my stamp positioner to hold my tag in place. And then I can ink up the stamp with Lakeshore's ink from Simons Stamp, and this will give me a really nice blue glass vase. Next, I'll position the flower I want to use so it looks like it's coming out of the top of the vase, and I'll be using my Tim Holtz Distress markers to add color to my flower. With each color that I use, I'll be stamping separately, so that's why I'm using my stamp positioner. I've just added a little bit of peeled paint to the stem, and next I'll spritz this with just a little bit of water. And then I can close the door and press the stamp onto my tag. Between each of the colors that I add, I'll be wiping off the stamp with a paper towel so that it keeps it nice and clean. The next thing I'm adding is a little bit of mustard seed to the center of the flower. Again, I'll spritz this with water and stamp it onto my tag. I'll continue adding color and working my way from the center out to the outside edge. I've used carved pumpkin for the mid-range, and now I'm using abandoned coral for the outside edge. Again, I'll spritz with water and stamp that onto my tag. And when I'm done, I have a really sweet flower that has multiple colors, even in a small area. For my second card, I am using a Distress ink pad, one of the minis, and I'm using peeled paint. I have added water to that, and I'm just adding some foliage to the bottom of the tag. I'm stamping an additional leaf pattern with peeled paint ink and a spritz of water. I've started working on my flower, and I'm using all these tones of yellows, oranges, and reds. And I'm just adding little bits of color here and there on the flower blossom and stamping with each color. As I'm adding color to the blossom area, I'm keeping in mind what color I've already laid down, and I am cleaning the stamp off in between each stamping. I've stamped 3 of the blossoms, so those are intermixed with those green leaves, and now I'm adding a little bit of fossil ink and some of that greenery to the bottom just to give it a little bit more depth and dimension. Once my tag is all dry, I'll mount that onto my stamped panel of Desert Storm. I have pre-stamped my message onto my grid paper, and I have a strip of paper here. I can just set this right on top to line everything up, and I've added a little bit of adhesive to my grid paper. And once I have my positioning correct, I can press that down, and now I'll use my anti-static bag to remove any oils from my fingers. Then I can ink my stamp up with the Simons Stamp clear ink, stamp onto my strip, sprinkle with embossing powder, and use my heat tool to emboss. For my tag with the vase, I am just adding a simple greeting in black ink just across the vase and flower. To finish my cards up, I have added some twine to the top of my tag, and then I mounted that onto that stamped background and added my message strip across the tag. For my mini card, I folded in half a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 stamped panel, and then I mounted my tag on top with a little bit of twine for a bow. I hope I've given you some inspiration on using your Tim Holtz Distress markers with the Altenew Garden Silhouette flowers. And as always, thanks so much for joining me.